Hey, welcome back. Today we're looking at 3.3 domain and range. Something that you definitely talked about a little bit earlier and probably a little bit in Algebra 1 maybe. So the domain relates to the x values for a relation and the range is the y values of a relation. So if we're looking at a graph, this time we're looking at a parabola and it's giving us the vertex is at 2, 4. The domain, notice that these arrows go on this way and this way, meaning that they go this way forever and they go down forever. So the domain for any parabola is going to be all real numbers. But our range is going to be either, if it's opening downward like this one is, we're going to have a maximum value. So this one, because it goes downward forever, is going to go towards negative infinity. And then the top is going to be at 4, and it includes the point, so we need to make sure, right, we said last time if it includes the point we put brackets up there. So that would be our range. If you want to write range in set notation, we could also say that y, right, because we're looking at the y value for range, so y such that y is less than or equal to 4, because all the values of the graph for our y are going to be equal to 4 or less. Okay, set notation. Domain, again, is all the x values. So here's our x values. So we can write them in a set because it's in set notation. So we can say 6, 6, and -9. Some of you also might note that this is not a function because we have 6 twice, which is fine. And then our range would be our y values. So we write this in set notation. We have 1, -1, and -5. Okay, so let's apply this to a word problem. It says a construction crew is paving a road. Let L be the length of the road and D be the days. And then it gives us our equation. L is equal to 3D plus 200. And it also notes that the crew can work at most 90 days. So the domain, right? The domain is usually the letter that's with the longer part of the equation, right? So it's usually, if you're thinking about just any function, it's y equals something x, blah, 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 right? So your x would be your domain. This idea is the same idea here. So our domain is represented by D. So our domain would be, they could work 0 days, right? But the most that they can work is 90 days. Right? You could also say, if you wanted to, D such that D is, well, actually we have to say between 0 and 90, right? So such that 0 is less than or equal to D, which is less than or equal to 90. But again, I think the interval notation is probably easier to write this way. Our range would be the other variable, in this case the L, right? We said that a lot of times when we have our equations, it looks like y equals something, right? So this would be our y. That would be our representative y, the L. Okay, and then the length of the road. So if they didn't do any work, right? If D was 0, then 3 times 0 is 0 plus 200. So the bottom, the least they could do is 200. Now, if we put in our 90, right? The most days that we can work is 90. So if we did 3 times 90 plus 200, that would be 270 plus 200, which is 470, right? So the most amount of road they could pave is 470 miles. That's also included. If you want to write it in interval notation, in set notation, we'd say L such that 200 is the least, and then 470 is the greatest. Okay, last we're looking at some graphs here. So the domain, we're going to have to figure out what points these are. So this is going to be -3, 1, 0, -2, 1, 2. Oh, sorry, not 1, 2, 2, 1. and then 1, 3. Okay, so again, the domain is all the x's. So we're going to list all of our x's, so -3, 0, 1, and 2. Our range here is going to be the y's, so -2, 1, 1, and 3. Now on to the next one. This one, the domain is our x's, right? And do we notice that this point is included, this point is not included? So it goes from -3, the bubble is shaded, so we have brackets. And then it goes to +2, that one is not included, so no brackets. Here our ranges are y's. So the smallest number we have is -1. Again, that point is shaded in, so it's included. And then the largest y we have is 2, not included. So that's a parentheses. So this one probably easier to do interval notation again. And then the last one, we're looking at something that starts at the origin, starts at 0, and that it increases, notice the arrow here, indefinitely. So it goes towards infinity. So for our domain, it starts at 0. 0 is included, so we have our bracket, and then it goes towards infinity. And we said earlier that anytime we go to infinity, we use parentheses. So same thing with the range. Starts at 0, goes to infinity. Okay, so that's it, pretty quick. Hopefully you got all of that. If not, make sure you bring your questions to class. Good job.